I'm able to share my, okay, yes, I got it. Okay, it's being live streamed, got it. And then Munis, I know you're going to be doing translations. What is the best way for you to do that? Like in the most, or like, how can we help you? Because I know you're going to be like live translating essentially.
Right. I think the best way would just be then like you stop it.
Got it. Oh, I think someone. There's
no, you
echo.
just heard my YouTube link.
Oh, I was so scared. I was like, there's someone that sounds exactly like me.
That was me. I'm doing an impression of you. It would be perfect if you just like stop in every sections for like 3 to 5 minutes a little bit, and then I can like do the translation on live, and then I'll like let you know when I finish it.
Okay, that sounds good. Is that good for you?
Yep.
Great.
Should we get started now, or are we going to wait a little bit for people to join?
I think we can wait till 5.
9:05 or yeah. Sounds good.
Perfect. Should we start?
Yes. Let me just share my screen, but we can do some introductions right now. Hi, everyone. So nice to see you. I'm really excited to be here, especially just hearing about Beyond Contour from Munis. So thank you for having us. I'm Nikki. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a part of Spicy. Oh, Priya, you're muted.
And I'm Priya. I'm also really excited to be here. Thank you, Munis, for inviting us to come and speak. Sorry, I was eating my salad, a late dinner for me. But I'm really excited to be here and talk with you all about the work we do and learn from you all too, how art impacts you and transforms your life as you know it. So yeah.
All right, I'll do the translation then. 所以这是 Nikki 跟 Priya， 然后他们今天来跟大家分享，就是他们的组织 Spicy， 然后他们很兴奋今天可以来到这边，然后顺便他们过程中也会想要问大家一些问题，然后听听大家为什么会参与这个计划，然后对你们来说艺术跟设计怎么影响你们的生活。
Thank you, Munis. Yeah, so we'll dive right in. Again, hello, everyone. So excited to be here. Let's see if my window works. There we go. Okay. So yeah, hi, we are Spicy. Right now, there are only 2 of us, me and Priya, but we're actually a collective of around 13 awesome people that you see here on this slide. I'm going to go to the next slide. Munis, did you want to translate?
所以 Nikki 说他们就是 Spicy 这个组织，然后他们今天只有2个人来，就是 Priya 跟 Nikki， 他们其实是一个目前有13人的组织。
And Minas, I'm so sorry, but the next few slides, they're going to build on top of each other. So you might have to translate one after another. But to give you an idea of what we are, I'm first going to show you what we thought we were back in 2017 when we first started. So this is the bare bones of what we thought we were, which is Spicy is an art collective for and by queer and trans creatives of color.
所以 Nikki 说，就是比起说他们现在是什么，他想要先从他们在Did you say 2017?
Yeah.
OK， 2017年的时候，他们当初定义自己是什么样的组织，然后来讲，然后所以他这边就有一句，他们当初定义组织的名字，就说 Spicy 是一个艺术的社群，然后为了然后跟创立在就是酷儿，然后跟跨性别的还有色人种的这个创意工作者这样。
So this is what we thought we were. But then over the years, as we've kind of developed who we are as a collective, as people, as our mission, we started to kind of pick this apart. So first, looking at the word art here. Art is a really vague word. It could mean anything. It could mean publishing, zine making, craft, design, music, performance, and more. Eunice, I'll pause here if you want to translate.
所以现在，但他们现在过了这么多年，然后他们开始重新思考自己的定位，跟当初他们2017年的定位有什么不一样。然后，所以比如说，我们先来看看在原本那句话里面的 art 这个字，就艺术这个字。那艺术有好多意思，可能有出版，然后 zine 制作，工艺设计、音乐表演，然后活动等等等等，这些是一个很大的词。
But we also believe that art is not just an output of these things. It's not just music. It's not just craft. It's not just a product. We believe that art is an interconnected process.
所以他们觉得，但是艺术不只是这些我们刚刚所说的最后做出来的东西而已，艺术还是一个之间不停交错然后交织的过程，然后而不只是一个最终的产物。
We also took a look at the word collective and what exactly does that mean. Collective is such a vague word, but I think to us it means one, like organizing has always been a through line in all of our work, and that's organizing in friendship specifically. And also Spicy is a political home for a lot of us as well.
Collective 这个字就是我刚刚把它翻成社群，大概就是其实就是一个集合，是一群人所构成的组织。那在 Spicy 这个群体里面，他们觉得很重要的是，他们像这个群体是一个友谊的集合体，然后同时也是提供了一个政治性议题的安全的像家一样的场所。
We also took a look at the word creatives and ended up taking that out completely and instead replacing it with the word cultural worker.
然后他们也把之前原本句子里面有的创意工作者这个字拿掉，然后改成文化工作者。
So what exactly is a cultural worker? We'll kind of just quickly skim over the definition of that, but we thought it was an important distinction to make between that and creatives. Eunice, feel free to translate.
所以他们等一下会来谈谈什么是文化工作者，以及为什么我们要把创意工作者这个词拿掉，然后改成文化工作者这个词。
So a cultural worker, and this is taken from a really great article that I can send afterwards, is different from a creative because there's an inherent accountability to the role of a cultural worker versus just a creative. So to say that you're a cultural worker is to essentially say in this quote that your labor has the intention to uphold a certain culture.
所以文化工作者这个词，然后 Nikki 他们现在这边是从一个很棒的文章取出来的一个段落，那他等一下在结束之后会把这个文章再寄给大家，这样子。文化工作者跟创意工作者不同的地方在于，文化工作者具有一种责任，所以称自己是文化工作者的人，就是在说你的 你的劳动，你在这个工作中所付出的东西，然后有一个意义去宣扬或表示某个特定的文化。
And in terms of this definition, that culture that we spicy as cultural workers are trying to uphold is a culture of revolution, a culture of transformation.
然后在以 Spicy 这个组织来说，为什么他们叫自己文化工作者？是因为他们觉得他们有一个责任去宣扬具有改革或革命性，然后跟改变性的文化。
And although that we've gone through a bunch of different iterations of who we are on paper, there is one thing that remains consistent. And that's, we believe art is a transformative tool to change the world.
其实就是我们看到从2017年的宣言到现在，然后经过了这么多不同词汇的改变或思考上的改变，有一件事情永远不变的就是Spicy 一直相信艺术是一个作为一种改变性的工具，然后去影响世界。
Awesome. So that's kind of who we are. I'm actually going to throw it to Priya we actually want to ask you a question. So yeah.
所以 Nikki 现在要把就是现在活动交给 Priya， 然后 Priya 想要问大家一些问题。
Hi, everyone. And thank you, Nikki, for sharing a bit about who we are. I'm really excited to be here and learn from you all. I don't know. I've never taught a class that's based in Taiwan, obviously, and I don't know much about like art and politics and revolution that happens in Taiwan. And I also am excited to just meet new people. And so one thing that I think I would love to hear from you all, and I don't know, Munis, what the best way to do this is. It's kind of like a little prompt. So maybe we could just to get us thinking about one way art has transformed you, maybe a movie, a song, a quote, a painting. And I just would love everyone to like take a minute and think about the answer to this question. And then if people want to share, like unmute and share, or, you know, put in the chat. And then I don't know if you're down to translate Eunice, we could kind of just learn a little bit from you all, like how we all kind of like have this in common, maybe.
I should have set up a Figma board. I forgot.
Oh, totally.
Can Nikki do that?
I'm so sorry, I forgot.
Nikki, can you set up a Figma board?
You want me to set up a Figma board?
Or Figma Jam?
Oh, Figma
Because
Jam.
we've been using Figma Jam for the longest time in this project.
Wait, you don't see my screen, right?
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah.
We just see the name one way art.
Okay, good. Because my desktop is a mess. Wait, I don't think I can because I have Figma open right now. Is it okay if we just use the chat or?
Oh yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I should have set one up.
It's fine. I'll translate the one before this first. 所以 Priya 说他们现在想要做一个小活动，然后就是他们因为他们都没有就他们对台湾的艺术社群或是艺术对政治跟改革有什么意义不了解，然后他们很想要就是了解大家对艺术的看法，所以在这个地方，然后希望大家可以花一点点时间想一下画面上这个问题，就是请你说出一种艺术改变你的方式，比如说或是媒介，比如说一个电影、一首歌、一个句子等等，然后如果你愿意的话，可以把这个东西分享到就是聊天室里面，或是如果你愿意的话，你可以直接开麦克风分享那个东西，然后我可以帮你翻译。
So should we wait a couple minutes and maybe have some people put things in the chat? Okay, awesome. So I'll just stop talking for a little bit.
有人想要直接分享吗？ Oh, I don't know what it's called in Yanqing shared a movie called let me check. There's a movie called Contagion. Is it with
Yes.
yeah. And she was saying that when she watched the movie, she was really afraid that there's gonna be, an outbreak, and then COVID immediately hit after that. So she was scared hell. But then after that, she got a little bit better because it was not as bad as what was played in the movie.
Amazing. So that's a bit reassuring.
Jiayun, do you want to share the picture, share some stories about the picture? 哦，我应该讲中文。你想要分享一下你那个切的图片吗？
就是我贴的图片是我去台东池上的那个照片，然后他们那时候刚插第2期的，就是水稻会分2期，然后他们正在插第2期，然后因为我小时候是在乡下长大的，然后就会看着就是周遭的环境，然后慢慢这几年开始发生一些改变，因为宜兰很多农地其实都不见了。然后所以就是我的作品就是会或者是我关心的东西就会跟大自然或者是农作物土地这类的东西有关系。对。
So Jiayun was saying that she took the picture that she sent in the eastern part of Taiwan, which is called Taidong Chishang. And they're like famous for their rice because they like grow a lot of rice, like really good quality rice in the eastern part of part of Taiwan. And she was saying that there are 2 periods when you grow rice, and this is like the second period, which means that the rice is like ready to be harvested, that kind of thing. And she was born and raised in the countryside, so she was very connected to the ground and her roots in the cultural sense. But then as she grew older, she realized that a lot of the farmland are gone because of gentrifications, because of civilization. And so a lot of her work as an artist are related to the nature, the countryside, the land that she grew up in. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's really beautiful. And I would love to hear I'm going to click the other YouTube links. And then I saw that Lexi shared about generative art. What is generative art? Is it like code art, like coding art? I know Nikki does that.
Yes, code art.
Oh, so cool.
Lexi is gonna start her studies in ITP next semester.
Yay, congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
And that's really cool that you were able to explore your creative process through code. It's a very, very exciting moment when you discover that.
Exactly. Me and Nikki are highly influenced by it, and we need to meet in person. 川佑老师想要分享那个影片吗？
那个是就是妈别闹，现在就是我们我可以先介绍一下，你说影片的连结吗？
对，
它是在 Netflix 里面看的耶。好，我等一下抓一下它那个简短的。那我需要就看影片就好了吗？
你可以直接讲就可以。
哦，好，简单讲就是它是一本一个小说家龙子的作品，然后他在讲述他的母亲怎么从爸爸离开之后远嫁那个到异国的婚姻。那这里面也有阐述其他2个女儿以及这个作家他的他对那个感情的看法。然后后来3个女儿有比赛谁先嫁出去这件事情。那这妈别闹了这件事情，我为什么会想要提出来是，它很像那个目前时下那个母亲对于现在的新的这个世代以及不同世代的这种情感看法，有很平行的彼此把那个里面的东西一起 因为婚姻这个比赛，谁先结婚这件事情，把情感一起都可以摊在这个家庭的会议里面，而且是3个女人哦，就是爸爸走了嘛，所以这个家庭变成3个女人在讨论婚姻的这种自己的想象，然后去达成目标，然后这过程里面彼此的冲突，这样。我去贴一下链接，我刚刚在找。好，
所以穿越 share， 这是台湾的吗？
就是 Billy 姐去演，然后里面背后背景音乐很有趣，就是 Billy 姐之前什么都不必说，你记不记得 Billy 姐是台湾的摇滚音乐的一个很温和的教母，好，但是她的儿子就是因为19岁之前在美国学了这些的编曲音乐，然后但是因为母亲得了癌症嘛，就又回来，因为他们母子关系非常好，他回来之后居然把他所有的音乐曲风都改编了，那也就是把它拆解了，可是又在组织起来之后，重新又造成一个风潮，又让我看到他们真实世界2个就是母子这种音乐的结合，甚至在剧本上或者是整个拍那个 MV 的过程里面，都看到很美好的结合，就是他的孩子周汤豪也因为母亲的之前的音乐基础，然后再叠上去的这种，我要讲很美好，可是却又不一样的世代，可是却结合的很好，然后母子彼此尊重，然后共同创作，然后当然周汤豪还有讲他在创作上有压力，其实这也是我们台湾艺术圈里面常常父亲还有想要期待自己孩子，像我自己的同学都有这样，自己的女儿不画画居然生气，然后祷告到让他女儿要画画，就这种强迫的概念。但是Billy 跟周汤豪是因为他们是单亲的状况下彼此成长，所以这个教养的这个亦步亦趋的这个概念，后来怎么让周汤豪又胜过可以叠在妈妈的身上？这里面有这种教育方式让我觉得，就是 Billy 姐的那个哲学概念很好。对。
So Chuan Yo said that she shared a Netflix series, a Taiwanese Netflix series. It's like a drama series on on Netflix, and the plots are talking about a 6-year-old mother who like her husband died, but she has 2 daughters, and so then she and her 2 daughters are sort of like competing against each other about who's gonna get out of their single life first, so who's gonna get the new partner first. And the stories was inspired by the creator, who is like a famous artist in Taiwan, who brought in a lot of rock and roll into the Taiwanese context. And her son also went abroad to study other types of music, like hip-hop music. And when her son came back from the US, they collaborated and then like create all the music for this series. There was like sort of a touch of rock and roll with like hip-hop music, but it's like a cross-generation collaboration. So she find that really touching.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, sorry, go ahead, Priya.
No, I was just gonna say I love that. I'm gonna try to watch it. If I
Yeah,
can.
same. I want to watch it too. And it's like not only cross-generation, but cross-cultural, and like so many crossings in that like piece of entertainment. So I'm definitely gonna have to watch it. Thank you for sharing.
Priya 跟 Nikki 说他们觉得听起来很有趣，他们会想要去看。然后I think one last one was by Tingrou. She said that she shared a song by Coldplay, and she was saying that
Love it.
Coldplay, it's like a a very therapeutic band for her that just like heal her when she had sorrows, or when she had happiness that she wanted to share, and she would like share with the songs.
I love that Coldplay song. Fix You, such a good song. Awesome. Thank you. Should I go into the next okay, awesome. Thank you everyone for sharing. I think the purpose of us asking that question was because we can actually go, I think maybe we can go to the slide with the ripple effect, if that's the next one. Yeah. So, I saw something was shared in the chat. Should I pause or should I just finish my?
It's the same thing, but the trailer that Chanya was talking about for the Netflix series. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Okay, awesome. So I think what's really important for us is when we think about art making, it's not just about a product. Like Nikki said, it's about a process that is interconnected. And it's almost like a ripple effect, like when water is dropped into a bucket and it creates these ripples. It starts with maybe seeing art, making art, like engaging with art that can start a healing process inside you that could make you reflect on your life. It could maybe make you have a memory or remember something or feel a way that you want to feel or you don't want to feel. It can like trigger a response. And when you are in that response and you're healing and you're thinking about your life and you're thinking about what you want, what you don't want, what feels good, what feels bad, it can also push you to ignite your imagination and think about what your desires might be or what you would rather have, or it helps you put all of your needs and desires in a place. So like a song or a painting. And this is what I'm talking about, like you making art yourself. It makes you like, and if we can actually go, well, actually I'll pause there and just saying kind of like the ripple effect of like making art causes a healing process that can then expand our imaginations.
所以 Priya 说，刚刚那个活动的原因，就是因为他想要说，艺术就像是一个涟漪一样，因为艺术不只是一个最终创造出来的产品，它其实是一个交织的过程，然后会创造一种涟漪。从你接触到其他人的作品，跟艺术品互动的过程开始，这是一个疗愈的过程。它不只会触动你在接触艺术品当中的某个情绪，会让你想一些你在艺术当中看到你想要的生活，你不想要的生活，也会开启你的想象力，去思考你在生活中需要的是什么，不需要的是什么，然后进而创造出你自己想要的是什么，然后做自己的作品。
Awesome. And then Nikki, if you go back one slide to the quote, sorry, I'm doing this out of order. I'm just going to read this quote and then maybe we could just translate it after. But basically, when we create art, not only are we tuning into ourselves when we create art, but we're also expressing ourselves. So making our internal world external. And in doing so, we're acting upon a healthy belief that what is inside us is worthy of taking up space and being seen by others. And it's a really affirming process. This is from a presentation I actually gave on the intersection of art and mental health and feeling, you know, secure in your body and in your world. And I think that this is really important aspect of healing that leads to being able to transform and to start making decisions. When you make art, you're making decisions about what you like, what you don't like, what color you might like, or what instrument sound you might like. And when you start to make those decisions, you're starting to communicate with yourself and understand what is pleasing to you and what makes you happy and what allows you to express. And it's really affirming, and it causes a revolution out of it because we live in a, well, I'll pause there. Sorry.
Well, that's good. 所以 Priya 这边分享了一个引言，然后这个引言大概翻译就是说，当我们在创造艺术的时候，我们并不只是往内看见自己，我们同时也是往外，然后去表达自己。然后艺术就是我们，把我们的内在世界用外在的表现方式呈现出来的一种方法。然后在这个过程当中，我们也在一个很健康的过程中去看见我们自己，其实我们的内在其实是有能力在外在世界去占据一个空间，去发出声音，然后以及被其他人看见这样子。那 Priya 说他之前在一个活动当中，就是这个活动是讲艺术品创作艺术跟精神健康之间的关系，然后发表的引言，然后他说，比如说我们在创作艺术当中，为什么这件事跟你的精神健康这么有关系？是因为在创作艺术当中，你其实需要做出很多的决定，你要去思考什么是你喜欢的，什么是你不喜欢的，你喜欢什么样的颜色，什么样是你喜欢的乐器、声音，然后去思考什么会让你开心，然后借由这些决定去创造出下一个改革。
Thank you. And I think specifically for Spicy, our collective is of queer, Black, and brown people organizing and making art that tells our story while we're living in America. which is a settler colonialist state that was built, and we are brought here upon, capitalistic endeavors, violence, genocide. This is what our country's built upon, and our laws that the forefathers created are what we're living in right now. It's a very traumatic existence. And so to be able to create art and community that expresses what we feel inside and makes that able to be seen and known and heard by others, and not only expressed, but then affirmed by community and lifted up, it allows us to dream when we make art beyond our current world. And there's a really awesome quote, I think, from Adrienne Marie Brown, who is an author and writer and activist, who said, organizing and art is kind of like science fiction writing, Star Wars or Star Trek, or these out galaxy, shows that take place in the galaxy, because we're really imagining a world when we're organizing politically together. We're imagining a world that doesn't exist. So in order to do that, you kind of have to flex your creative muscles and be able to dream into what it is you want, because we have not lived in a world where we feel safe and affirmed at every turn, or where we can feel, feel love and joy to its utmost capacity at all times. So ultimately, art is the representation of one's need for those things in life, for happiness, love, and joy. And that's also the point of revolution. So art making and revolution to us have the same, it's the same means the same end. And I'll pause there.
所以 Priya 刚刚说，就是如果把这些刚刚想的概念放回 Spicy 本身的话 ，Spicy 是一个为了酷儿，然后为了黑人、棕色人种的人组织，然后创作艺术的社群。在用他们的角度去讲述他们的故事，因为他们现在是在美国，然后美国其实是一个有非常多在历史上有殖民者，直到现在都还有殖民主义，然后所建立起来的国家。那以历史来说，你可以想到，之所以美国现在有很多有色人种的人，是因为在当时有黑奴，然后他们被暴力的从他们原本的国家透过资本主义带到现在的国家来，然后当时美国还有发生很多比如说种族隔离、种族灭绝等等很具有创伤的历史。这样，然后这是他们国家所建立的基础，他们祖先制定的法律，那些殖民他们的人制定的法律，现在还存在这个社会当中，所以这是一个非常创伤性的过程。那对这些人来说，创造艺术跟创造社群，可以表达他们内心所看到的这些东西，这些事情是可以被其他人看见、被了解跟评导，并不只是表达，而是透过一个会互相包容跟支持的社群来互相鼓励彼此，然后给对方安全感。因为创作就像是是超越当前，就是现在我们居住社会的艺术。那有一个很棒的名言，它就是 Priya 分享来自于Adrienne Marie Brown， 就是一个作家跟社会改革家，然后他就说艺术很像科幻小说，比如说 Star Wars 就是像星际大战，或像 Star Trek 星际迷航这些小说一样，然后你知道在这种就是在宇宙中发生的故事。那当我们在艺术当创作的时候，我们其实很多时候是在想象一个世界，想象一个不存在的甚至更好的世界。所以为了做到这一点，你必须要去发挥你的创造力，然后像实现梦想一样去努力实现你想要的。因为不是所有人生活在这个世界上每天都可以感受到安全跟肯定的感觉，但是在创造的艺术当中有一个社群支持，却给你很多的爱，然后跟很多的分享跟鼓励，这样。所以归根究底，就是艺术是一个人对生活或幸福当中需要东西的表现。那这其实也是革命跟改革发生的起点。这样，所以他们认为艺术创作跟改革其实是同样的开始跟同样的结果。
Thank you. Yeah, I want to show the other slides that we have just so we can pause with them a little bit, but then I would love to open up for questions and just hear, if people have any questions or want to add anything or share anything about, their art making practices. But yeah, we could probably just go to we can go to so we have an Instagram, we have print magazines, and we have a website that we operate with. Currently, the Instagram is on a hiatus. We had our last magazine in 2018, and our website is being revamped, but it's under construction. We are talking about like art making for revolution, and we also talk about art making outside of a capitalistic framework, which means that we factor in time for rest, we factor in time for being offline, away from social media, and we factor in time to sit and understand how the world has changed, especially in the last few years with COVID, with many of our team members being impacted mentally, emotionally, financially because of what's going on, and having to really sit and think about what the needs of our community are before we, create any programming. So yeah, I'll pause there.
所以 Priya 说这个画面上面就是这3个东西是他们组织就是有在做的事情这样子，但你可以看到说就是有 Instagram， 他们有 Instagram 的账号，然后他们有他们自己制作的 Zine， 然后跟他们也有线上的 Zine 这样子。那只是目前他们的 Instagram 是一个中断的状态，然后他们在2018的时候出了一本大的杂志，然后但他们的网站现在也是从2020年的时候开始在2020年的时候开始这个网站，然后现在是在施工中的过程当中。那他们很多作品是在讨论就是改革性的艺术创作，或者在讨论资本主义框架之外的艺术创作，所以他们需要考虑到休息这件事情，要考虑到远离社交媒体的这个部分，然后而不是被这些媒体跟社群所绑架。那特别是过去几年因为 COVID 发生之后，他们许多团队的成员在精神上跟财务上都受到了影响，所以他们认为比起持续不断的一直在产出新的东西，他们觉得也需要停下来休息跟思考真正这个社群所需要的东西是什么，而不是不断一直在做新的东西这样。
Yeah, and I think it's also important for us to share that we as individuals don't make any money from Spicy's organizing. We make money by selling merchandise and our magazines and art as a collective, and we put it back into the organization. And then we've also gotten money from grants that we hope to redistribute to our community.
所以他说有个很重要要讲的点，就是什么叫做资本主义外的框架，就是他们整个团体是一个非营利组织，所以他们赚到的钱，比如说他们会出版，然后或者是卖一些周边商品去赚钱，但这些钱最后都会回来到这个社群当中，用来支持这个社群，而不会就是特别作为整个社群里面某一个人的薪水。
Thank you. And yeah, we can just kind of show the next few slides of us like representing that art making, we view it as a process and not a product. So in the next few slides, you'll see images from our zine making workshops. And yeah, maybe we could translate that and then just look at the images as they come.
所以Priya 说就是后面他们会放几张图片，然后这些图片就是要来表达说他们为什么认为艺术是一个过程，而不只是一个最终的产物。所以这边有很多张图片是显示他们之前办过的相关活动，是大家一起来做 Zine 这件事情。
Awesome. Thank you. And then yeah, we'll pause there and then we'll take any questions if anyone wants to share anything, comments.
所以他们今天的分享就是投影片到这个部分，然后接下来可以大家发问任何的问题。这样。
翁老师可以问一个吗？
可以。
翁老师，我可以好，我想问说，在安息的这2020年到2022年，在那个 inner 在他们的里面的。因为他有讲到艺术里面有里面的部分嘛，他可以把那个他们的想法或者他们一些自己很随机的一些运作一定有嘛，好，在一个社群里面，虽然他看起来没有在台面上被看见，那 under table 的部分有没有突发的这种比过去更沉潜的一些想法跑出来或思考？
更深层的吗？是更深层的吗？
亦或是过去所没有看见的，那因为疫情之后，然后也不急于把产品推出去嘛，或者是可视化的这种像 Instagram 这种收集的这种 所谓的设计师经常有的以为要做出什么样子摆在那边才得以安心的这种状态，那他的脑子里面或者在居家环境里面，还有一些什么新的发现或看见，然后是养分的，对。
Oh, so Chanyo asked that first of all, she like acknowledged the idea of like resting, especially since COVID happened and everyone's sort of like impacted financially and emotionally. But she was like kind of curious about, even though it seems on the table that everything is in rest right now, but then that doesn't mean that people are not, active in the community or the community is not working. So she was kind of wondering if there are other things that was going on in the community, just not on the, on the surface level, or are there deeper thoughts or thinking that was going on in the community? What has changed and what's the next step?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I could maybe like take a stab at it and then pass to Nikki. But yeah, basically like I'm gonna kind of like ramble just to like kind of get to the point, but because I'm kind of thinking about it myself, because it's a really good question. But when COVID happened, we actually were in the process of publishing our second print magazine or zine, and then we were going to have an event and have vend it, and it was like a big production. We were in production of the print magazine, everything, and then COVID happened. We completely like rewired what we were doing, moved to a online coded zine that Nikki created, that held all of the art that we created, and the theme for that zine was reimagining. So we put all of it on a microsite that Nikki coded. And we also had about 2.5 weeks of online programming virtually in Zoom for people to engage with, where we had artists coming and leading art making tutorials. We also had yoga and physical activities. We also had disability justice organizers coming and talking about COVID and how it's impacting people in our community that are low income, or Black people or disabled people, trans people, queer people in our community, etc., talking about how we can build networks to support each other. And it was a lot of intense programming. Then after that, we kind of burnt out, and like in our jobs, we all have jobs, like 9-to-5 jobs. Some of us are waitresses, some of us are artists. I do communications at an organization. Some of us are students, some were unemployed. And I think the anxiety of COVID really took a toll on us. So that's one thing that happened that made us kind of need to just like step back from a lot of the labor we were doing. But we, in the meantime, were raising money and redistributing it. I think we raised almost $4,000 within a very short amount of time, just from community. And then we redistributed it to grassroots organizations in our community. So that's one thing that we did, because Spicy kind of has this like, audience online that we can like garner attention and collect money and then give it out. So we took advantage of that. And then we also ended up getting a grant from a couple arts foundations in New York. And we, at the time, also let me know if you want me to pause, but I'll just finish this one thought. But at the time, we were just a group of people making art together. We were not a LLC or a business. We were not a nonprofit. We weren't any formal entity besides just people in a room making art together. But when we started receiving money because of taxes and stuff like that, we actually had to like figure out, do we want to take this money and redistribute it? And if we do, then we need to make sure we don't get like screwed over by our taxes, basically. So it almost took us a whole year to figure out, what are we going to be? We ended up becoming an LLC. We're a small business, so we can receive money now, and we can like do our taxes in a way that's separate from my personal finances. And also thinking about how we're about to redistribute money, what that will look like, and how to do it equitably. These are all tons of conversations that happen kind of behind closed doors. So you're right, like as people needed rest and we weren't doing any like as many zine making workshops at museums or parks or outside in community, we were organizing together to figure out what we need to do and the things we need to learn to be able to support our community, redistribute money. And yeah, it was a lot of like, it was really difficult to think about how we wanted to do that, especially with being kind of, you know, burnt out, people getting sick, family members, you know, things happening. So I hope that answers the question, but it's really important because there are always things going on. And there's also, last thing I'll say is there's also other organizations in the community that we're doing things to, and we collaborate with them, we work with them, or we attend their events and support them or give money to them. And I think that like leaning on our network of, you know, mutual aid of, which is basically like people coming together and sharing resources, that was really helpful for us to become engaged with.
所以 Priya 说，在 COVID 发生之前，其实他们本来准备好就是一个大活动，他们本来要出第2本他们的 Zine， 就是一个大收集他们之前做了很多东西的书，然后还要准备要到处卖做事情，就是因为 COVID 突然发生了，所以所有事情都被取消，然后他们立刻就赶快改成线上，透过就是科技的方式转成线上展览，然后 Nikki 主要就是负责设计跟写程式，然后来创造一个网站，然后来把这些他们原本的资源全部改成线上的展览，然后同时他们也举办了一些线上活动，在隔离期间邀请艺术家来分享艺术，然后做一些工作坊教学，然后也有做一些 yoga 的教学，然后也邀请其他更弱势的人，比如说disability 是有残障的人，有身障的人，然后或者是就是关注社会公益跟社会议题的人来分享活动，然后顺便关注在他们的社群当中那些低收入的有色人种，然后有残障或者是跨性别的酷儿社群的人，然后他们怎么可以互相建立社群，互相帮忙大家。那在这一切所有的活动中，他们觉得他们非常非常的疲惫，然后觉得非常的过劳，因为大部分的人虽然那时候是疫情期间，但是他们还是有就是朝九晚五的工作，然后很多人还是学生或是没有收入的人，那 COVID 让他们产生了很多的焦虑感，但很幸运的他们在那个期间他们就决定要重新思考自己的定位，然后他们创建了一些就是募资平台，然后总共募资了$4000，然后把这些金额重新分配给他们社群当中的其他连结的社群，其他的草根组织，那他们也有来自一些基金会艺术相关的基金会的资金这样子，但不过这件事情其实没有表面上看的那么简单，就是虽然拿到了资金，不过他们要开始思考税金的问题，然后他们都有工作，如果你要拿到资金之后，税金如果缴完之后，可能资金就会变很少，他们每个人要怎么样分配这些税金，他们花了一整年思考很多这样的问题，他们本来只是一群就是很爱就是想要互相帮忙，想要做艺术的人而已，但现在要开始思考一些其他的问题这样子。
And then something I'll also add to that, like I think that was a really like thorough recap, Priya, so thank you too. Was that like you saw in that slide that we had 3 various levels of output, or we thought a lot about like art as a product when we first started, like, oh, we have to release a print zine, we have to make sure we communicate to our followers on Instagram and like increase engagement, and we were very, very much just like product or output driven before, but I think like as kind of like our politics evolved, as we as individual people evolved, and with the onset of COVID, to Priya's point, we really just had to like slow down and reassess exactly like what pace was sustainable and like what made Spicy sustainable to the point where it didn't feel like a 9-to-5 either. And that's something that we definitely wanted to avoid as well. So in doing so, there was a lot of internal reworking. We weren't really output driven during the pandemic or even right now, because we realized that's not something that's not a framework that we want to operate within anymore. So we're doing a lot of internal reworking, just as much as, we're collaborating with other organizations and all of the things that Priya had mentioned. And I think like another big thing too is that we did also grow as a team as well. We welcomed some new members kind of towards the end of the pandemic, and that has also really shed a lot of light in terms of like how we operate and how we collaborate. So yeah, I would say, just to like sum up my answer, there was also a lot of internal reflection, internal reworking, a lot of like internal bonding too, just like, I mean, like sharing space together, whether that was virtually or like as things like kind of as we were able to see each other more in person. That was also an active effort we've been trying to make as well. So yeah, not necessarily like a print zine or like an event that we're hosting, but just a lot of internal work.
所以 Nikki 说，就是其实他觉得很重要的一个思考就是他们一开始其实就是他们现在讲的就是 art as a product 跟 art as a process 的就是比较，像他可以从他们的分享当中看到他们一开始在 COVID 之前其实他们很常有，就是作为一个艺术社区他们很常有那种最终产品，就是艺术是一种产品产出的想象，然后所以他们才会创建 Instagram， 然后做书，然后做成一个平台什么等，然后好像一定要经营这些事情，然后才是有在做事情这样。但是 COVID 之后他们开始发现其实这件事情是很困难，然后是没有办法延续下去的，所以他们也开始在这个当中思考了很多事情，什么样的速度跟什么样的产出是可以让一个社群持续的延续下去，然后不再只是一个好像就是全时的工作这样子。然后很多的在这个过程当中的其实都是内部的讨论或者思考跟反思，或者比如说跟其他的组织连接，或者是引入新的成员，让新的成员带来更多新的观点。然后还有一个就是在目前 COVID 的情况越来越好，所以大家也可以在线下之后互相见到彼此。大家还有其他问题吗？
那这个提问是到几点呢？
Chanyu said that she has many questions, but she doesn't want to throw you off. Like,
oh no, that's okay. I mean, yeah, whatever makes most sense. Like we could, because I also don't want to take up too much of everyone's time, but we could also send contact information too if we want to continue a conversation.
And is there also a question in the chat, or is that not a question?
Yeah, there's another question in the chat.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I'm down for both.
他们应该可以再待一点点时间。
好，
然后，但如果你们有很多问题的话，我们可以。
当然，芳姐有提问一个，那我先简单的，就是我比较急迫性想问，关于他们在运作当中的那个 process 可以成为一个 Zine 的这个里面的 content 吗？就是说，关于一本书的形成的这种我们既定的那种设计师美的那个概念，它有可能是把它变成是一种，比如说他在疫情之下很真实的那种他们运作的模式，他们是怎么产出的，把 process 就在书里面呈现的，然后很后设的去把它说我是怎么做出来，然后让更多人去了解他们的运作里面的这种甘苦啊，就是说也真的很像一个出版商的这种微型的那种另外一种的小看法。那另外第二个就是他刚刚有提到说税金的问题，那在台湾的做法是有很多是做成是日用必要的小物，然后这种在用的美学上面他抓到了一个比较重要的元素，就变成它是收零用钱的这种 pocket 概念，所以就跟税金所谓的资本的这种就可以脱钩，然后显得更自由一点。
那个税金的问题，但是他们拿到补助，可是补助，
对，所以我们就会变成都不敢拿，对，就不敢拿那种是 foundation， 就是架上有的。我意思是说，日常生活里面这种以买零售的这种不开发票的状态，它不是逃税问题哦。我们还遇过有一些捐赠人，他就给你一笔钱让你去运作，然后他不开发票、不开收据，我们俗称善款，但他知道你的宗旨，对，
美国的法这个税的问题我不太清楚，可能运作模式有点不太一样，对。
先这样。
All right. Chanyo asked that it's more, I feel like this is more of a commentary than question than like a question. She was basically saying that she was very curious, and she felt like there are like so much things they're valuable. And the idea you were talking about, how like you were like reflecting internally in the group, so she was thinking that maybe that could also be presented to everyone else. So she was really curious about that. She was like, I want to learn more insights from you as, you know, organizing as a group, even internally. Yeah. And she was saying also like that might, you know, just to share the struggles as like an art collective who are, you know, doing things, or just maybe that can also like humanize the process, because people tend to see organization as like, you know, attached from the worker and their labors.
Yeah, I think that that is so important, and we feel the exact same way. And throughout this process, part of the reason why it took so long for us to figure out how to make our art collective, our small art collective, into a business, or how to receive a few $1,000s and give it out without being taxed heavily by the state. Like, these are all things that we didn't really know the answers to. Nobody told us. And there weren't many like blueprints or instructions for us to seek out, like, how do we do this? Like, we know what we want to do in the world we want, but we never knew how. So one thing we talk about that we really want to do, and we talk about it all the time, is creating a zine, like literally like a publication or a zine, or maybe an online zine, where we can literally, we've taken so many notes and like meeting minutes throughout these few years, and we're a place where we could publish them and share them out, or have a town hall meeting where we can share out like what we learned and what we talked about, because it's very difficult to do this. And I mean, we're operating in the American context, and like, it's very difficult here, but I'm sure there's struggles and difficulties across the world of arts collectives trying to make political change and, you know, create a political home for artists. So the commentary is like, yes, same, like, agreed.
所以 Priya 说她很同意，就是刚刚传友老师分享的事情，就是她说她觉得他们其实一直最近在想，然后很想做的事情，就是他们作为一个艺术组织，然后他们现在转型成为一个不管在经济上或是在实体上可以支持其他人的社群，就不只是创作作品的社群，然后是一件很重要的事。但是在他们在转型的过程当中，没有人跟他们说要实际上怎么做，然后也没有这样的资源，所以他们很想做的事情其实是在做一本 zine， 然后来分享他们做的这些笔记跟他们讨论的东西，这样子。那如果他们做了，他会再跟大家分享。
So there's also a question in the chat, maybe?
Right. Okay. There was one more question from Fan Jie, and she said, so she was curious about how, you know, the idea of decolonization and intersectionality was sort of being conducted in the workshop that you hosted before, and how was the feedback that you got from the audience, and, you know, as, you know, people of color, what it's like to, you know, face people who are, or if your audience like majority of white people, and what it's like in that, you know, in-person activities.
Do you want to answer, Nikki, or I can answer first? Yeah, I think that that's really important. I think that, like, first off, like, when we talk about like decolonization, and I think that, like, it's actually interesting. Our collective has done a lot of thinking about like when to use the words decolonizing. And I think we've used it a lot in the past. And I think that we may continue to use it when that's, you know, what we're talking about, but really thinking about like how what we're doing is really like working in opposition to like the oppressive forces that be, whether it be like patriarchy, capitalism, racism, etc., classism in America. Like, how are we operating against that in the work we're doing? So I think that, like, and also like with respect to like the indigenous people in America that are using the word decolonize in a really like concrete way, like taking back land. And sometimes when our collectives say that, that's not actually what they're doing. You know, we did so for example, we did a program with the New Museum, who, you know, was actually called out. It's a big museum in New York that has a ton of money, did not pay us much, and was definitely like called out in the future for like some exploitative, you know, practices they had with artists. And in that setting, like I wouldn't say that the art we were making was like maybe for people there, they were coming to learn about art as revolution and decolonization, because that's what we were talking about. But we were doing it within a framework that was, you know, at this big museum in New York. And I think if we, you know, had that opportunity again, we might not take it, or we would ask for way more money or repair it, something more reparative to actually have that relationship with them, or not do it at all. And I think that like, and that's just like a reflection over time, we learn these things. And I think that at that place, we also had a lot of white people in the audience. And I think one thing is that we say that we, you know, value, you know, everyone who comes and makes art with us, but it's really a space that prioritizes people with intersecting identities. So people who like our community, which is who we do this for, which is like queer people of color, so queer, Black and brown people. And then also within that, prioritizing people that are working class, people that are indigenous, etc. And I think that when we have these events, we, you know, have community guidelines at the beginning that make clear like who this is for and what we're doing and what we stand for. But it can be like very weird sometimes to be doing events where a lot of people that come and show up are white, and then they make art that is kind of like not necessarily, you know, it's political, because I think no matter what art you make, it is political based on the materials you use, what you say, who you share it with, how you put it out. Everything is political, but you know, we really are doing this for our community. And I think that it's something that we also had to like sit down and pause for a second and be like, hold on, like, are we making the right decisions and working with the right people? Because if not, then what we're doing is kind of just like, you know, not making the impact we want to make. So it's definitely a question. It's something that I think that we learn a lot about and that we're in inquiry about, and trying to make sure we are sticking to like what we want to do is, because when we say we're a collective that is using art to transform the world, it's funny because I told my dad, who doesn't know much about like art making or just isn't really, you know, a fan of art making, etc. I was like, yeah, Spicy's a collective that is using art to change the world. And he was like, to what? And I was like, oh, good question. What are we changing the world to? We're not changing, you know, to be a collective where we can be at the new museum and show our art to like rich white people in New York. That's not what we're doing. So I think it's really important to be specific about it. And I think it's something we had to learn. Just because we are who we are doesn't mean we made the right decisions to like partner with the right people, do the right investigation and inquiry before working with people, making sure that they're valuing intersectionality. So yeah, I think it's something that we need to think about every time we do something, which is why it takes us longer to do things, because we are trying to make sure we're doing it like in a way that's vetted and right, which kind of goes back into like operating like that is anti-capitalist, because it means we have to go slower to do the right thing, to actually like go faster and hit like our, like serve our community exactly the way it needs to be served. It's sad because the needs are urgent. Art making to me is like an urgent need, like these things. And that's why like talking about like, oh, we needed to rest during COVID. Also, COVID's one of the times where people need the most community, money, support, spaces to make art and be free and feel a little free for a moment. And like, it's difficult because you're kind of caught in the struggle of like, we are also needing to, you know, rest and find those things, but we also want to do programming. So it's this like really trying to not feel guilty about taking a break, but also like taking a break so we can come back and do the things we need to do. So it's a conundrum. Operating under this structure is very like, it's hard because our minds are not trained to really do this. So yeah, great question. Making me really think, really. The wheels are turning and it's so late at night. It's like 10 o'clock and I'm like up. It's like a cup of coffee. But
I'm so sorry.
No, I'm jazzed. Like, I don't know. I'm like really happy to be talking about this right now.
所以Priya 说这是一个很好的问题，然后让他想了很多事情，比如说在谈去殖民这件事情，其实最近几年美国在对于去殖民这个用词的想法有在转向，因为以前去殖民包含了所有对反殖民的议题，但是最近几年因为美国的 原住民社群或是全球各地的原住民社群再把去殖民这个词拉回来。那因为 Spicy 这个组织其实不一定是跟原住民有关的组织，然后也不一定是跟原住民很多议题，其实是跟多辉他们所拥有的土地有关的这些议题有关，所以他们最近开始在重新思考他们是不是可以使用去殖民理论这个词放在他们的组织当中，因为他们其实并不是在关注这样的议题这样。然后但如果要讲的话，他觉得他们的组织一直在关注的事情就是在反抗那些压迫大家的体制系统，比如说父权啊、资本主义，然后美国的种族歧视，然后还有阶级的歧视。那有的时候要跟正确的人合作很困难，比如说之前他们曾经跟一个美国纽约很有名的博物馆，我今天才去参观的博物馆叫做 New Museum， 然后 New Museum 就是一个很有钱的美术馆，那但是在跟 Spicy 合作过程中 New Museum 给他们非常非常少钱，然后基本上有很多剥削员工跟合作的历史，然后虽然他们的展览最后成功的展出，然后有很高的能见度，然后也在讲很重要的事情，但是跟错误的人合作，让他们常常觉得这样他们做出来的努力是不是最后的确就是有在正确的发生影响力呢？比如说像芳姐问了一个很有趣的问题是说，那如果很多就是工作坊的过程当中跟白人接触会怎么样？这样，然后所以他就说，在他们的活动当中，他们其实当然会希望可以优先给就是酷儿，然后有色人种，尤其是黑人跟棕色的皮肤的人，然后但是他们也不能因此就有排他性，然后去说哦不要让是白人来参与，然后或者是其他同样也被排除的群体，像是社会底层的劳工阶级或者是原住民这样，虽然跟他们的这不是他们组织在特别关心的议题这样子，然后再来就是有的时候他们也会有这样的疑惑，就觉得他们是不是有在做正确的事情，比如说他们举办的活动可能是跟反殖民或反压迫有关的，然后可是来参加的团队跟来参加的观众全部都是白人，然后白人就会创造出白人殖民者有美学观点的作品，因为他们觉得所有的艺术其实都带有政治性，然后因为你的文化所含有政治性的意涵，这样子就会让他们开始在思考说，他们有在跟正确的合作吗？有没有在正确产生正确的影响力？这样，那 Priya 就举一个例子说，他跟他的爸爸就是分享说，哦 ，Spicy 是一个 art collective， 然后正在 change the world， 就是改变世界。然后，但他爸就说 change what？ 改变什么？然后他就说，比如说，如果他们跟 New Museum 合作，然后就给那些有钱的白人观众来看他们的艺术，这样真的有在做正确的事情吗？所以也是他们在 COVID 之后开始需要思考了很多事情。就是虽然他们很关注交织性跟去殖民这件事情，可是很想要急着去改变这个世界。可是很困难的是，就是当你越想要急着去改变事情，你就越容易做出错误的决定。所以他们更觉得自己应该要慢下来，然后那个之间的拉扯其实是很困难的，因为比如说在 COVID 期间，他们想要 rest 就是要休息，可是这个休息期间，你其实就是 COVID 当中大家最需要帮助的时间，所以那个休息让他们感觉到就是很有罪恶感这样子，所以作为一个想要帮助他人的就是改变的艺术组织，其实是有很多的焦虑跟就是很困难的拉扯这样子。That was it.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. That was a really great conversation. And it was so great learning a little bit about you all as well. And I think like just based on this conversation, maybe we need a part 2 or some sort of like continuing conversation because I feel like we only scratched the surface.
Exactly. 然后 Nikki 说他觉得很棒，然后但他希望如果有第二个活动就好了，因为他觉得他们今天能触碰到的事情就只有触碰到这件事情的一点点，但可惜我们时间不够，这样对。然后 Yeah， Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. And I was going to say, Munis, thank you for translating. You did awesome.
Yes, thank you so much.
I hope we didn't make it too difficult, but thank you everyone for sharing also and just hearing about, how art has changed you all. And I'm actually so curious to learn more about like art and revolution and politics in Taiwan. And I would love to I don't know if it's you, Munis, or anyone else. Like, I would just love to learn more and see what we can, learn or create together one day.
We're going to publish all of our participants' workshops. So they created workshops that are based on like the idea of anti-colonialism and intersectionality, and also with like idea, targeting queer people and indigenous people and disabled people in Taiwan. So we're going to publish all of that on our platform by the end of the summer, hopefully, if we have time. Yeah. And yeah, perfect. Priya 说，如果你们有问题的话，可以寄给他，然后 Priya 跟 Nikki 都把他们的 email 放在那个 chat room 里面，所以大家都可以去回复他们的问题，寄信问他们问题，对，或者可以跟我们分享你们在做的事情。
那个
Oh yeah
对，就是那个如果方便的人可以帮我开一下镜头吗？我想要做个会议记录。天哪，我现在光好像鬼哦。
So Yanjun said she's gonna take a picture of all of us on Zoom, and yeah.
So just smile. Got it.
Yay.
Yes.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hope to see you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.
太好了，好，我现在来